नो जंगल में मोर नाचा किसने देखा? ऐसे ये सब नहीं होता. There is no recording of it. No point.
All right. So disclaimer before we start, none of this is advice. It's all meant for either education or entertainment. For financial advice, please go to rupeeting.com and pay up. Cool. So today's topic is electric vehicles and Tata Motors and how Tata Motors has been killing it in the EV race so far. Every other car that you see on the road, which is an electric vehicle, is almost necessarily a Tata make. So although early days they have been really peddling hard on this entire game and been seeing a lot of success. So yes, EVs in India, what's the outlook?
Outlook seems pretty great as of now in terms of growth. I think 2019 to 2022, we've seen a 35x growth in terms of EV car sales, which is a brilliant number in the standalone basis, at least to say. In fact, on both years, the number of passenger vehicles sold were in and about 38 lakhs. But the percentage of EVs in them have grown, which is at 0.05 percentage in 2019 to now 1.1, 1.2 in 3 years, which is not bad considering it's all being driven, or at least majorly being driven by Tata Motors and their Nexon and Tigor and Punch and all of those variants that they have out there.
Yeah, but it's still lower number, right, compared to what other global players are like.
Right.
And Europe's the largest of them. So I was looking at data out of the top 20 countries in terms of market share for EVs. So EVs as a percentage of total sales in the last year in 2021. The highest were 15 of those were European countries and only 5 were outside Europe. So Europe has really ramped up in terms of EV sales. Not only in terms of how many EVs at present are a total of their total cars running, but also a much higher number when it comes to how many EVs they're selling in 2021. So the highest, you know which one? This is not part of the quiz.
Okay. So the best-selling EV in Europe in 2021.
No, the country with the highest EV sales in 2021 as a percentage of total sales.
Norway.
LA. Yeah, Norway. So Norway, 86% of the total cars sold in 2021 were EVs. This is part of the blog, by the way. So it's surprising that you all don't know the answer. It's shameful. It is part of the blog that you guys have contributed to.
I think I'll deserve 5 points for this then. What is this, Ayush?
What is this, Ayush? Says the co-author, Hardik. But it's a pretty astonishing number, even in terms of like a global general outlook, where India is at 1.1% of total passenger vehicles sold being EVs. It's at around 10 to 12% on a global scale. So that shows how much room India has to grow for, at least in the next decade or two, with our whole EV 30 at 30 goal that the government has signed up for, which is basically 30% of all cars being sold being EVs by 2030. Bold statement to be making, considering.
No, that's pretty achievable as well, right? Given how EVs have grown so far.
Right.
And it's always compounding, right? Because infrastructure also comes in place, government policy is favorable. And pricing parity exists between EVs and combustion cars now. So although EVs cost higher in the beginning to buy, the cost of ownership reduces or comes to par with other cars just because the running cost is like a fraction of petrol cars. But you want to talk a little about government policy because that seems to be the major driver, at least in the US and Europe, when it comes to driving a lot of the sales. And at the end of the day, every consumer is price sensitive, right? So any government policy towards reduction of taxes or reduction of the overall cost for the consumer works very well.
Yeah. Even so, if we take your US, Europe, China, and all of those major EV markets, they've all adopted a similar strategy in terms of government policy, which is just basically cutting down on tax and sort of subsidizing the purchase for you to the best of their ability, with the US solely favoring Tesla for some reason. But we'll get to that later. In India, we've seen certain specifics that have happened. For example, GST on your purchase has been cut down from 12% to 5%. Custom duty on lithium-ion battery imports have been cut from 21 to 13. And the government's very famous, quote-unquote famous policy called FAME in itself, which is an acronym for Faster Adoption and Manufacturing of Electric Vehicles.
And good you mentioned it's an acronym.
Yeah. So yeah, that scheme has been doing really well, where it provides subsidies to up to like 1.5 lakhs on the purchase of an EV, depending on how heavy the EV is or whatever. And then there's state-wise subsidies where they provide discounts of up to 15% of ex-showroom prices. So even though they are selling it at a premium to combustion engine vehicles, these subsidies initially will be assisting that purchase and facilitating just a subsidized version to achieve that parity in cost with your petrol vehicles.
Yeah. No, but one thing that really surprises me is the fact that EV or not, right? Okay, chalo, EV ka percentage increases. And you're charging the EV using
Electricity.
a plug point, right? But if the country's overall energy mix is not changing and they're still firing up coal and not using renewable energy, तुम पेट्रोल जलाओ या कोयला जलाओ, बात तो एक ही है ना. So what is the whole point of driving an EV?
No, the transition is in like 2 phases, right? So it starts with, it's like a 2-pronged thing. We convert cars to electrical and our energy sources to safer and like more cleaner ones.
But that's not necessarily happened, right? Take Europe, for example. While they boast the highest number of EVs right now,
their
renewable percentage was also high, right? And natural gas was high, etc. All of that was happening. Coal consumption was low. However, it took only that Russia-Ukraine episode for natural gas prices to shoot up. And after that, again, they started importing their coal from South Africa, Australia, and started burning their coal-fired plants up. So the EV at the end of it is consuming power that is used from burnt coal. तो तुम हवा में तो उतना ही छोड़ रहे हो ना.
So that argument stands. That's most of these petrol heads, as they call them, giving the same argument against EVs. That not only the fuel mix argument, but the fact that most people don't yet produce the lithium-ion batteries on their own, so they're shipping them out to their own countries, which also adds to the whole emission aspect. So it's not like EVs making that much of an effect yet. But
yeah, like even this one, right? Like you talk about Norway and all of that, like highest percentage of EVs on the roads and blah blah. But they are also one of the largest oil producers. So like their overall it's a big fraud like that at a global net carbon level, like balls, they're doing very good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The car doesn't make noise, so it's better. So EV good.
That's true.
Yeah, noise pollution wise, yes. But there was some law somewhere, right? Because the car was so silent, they had to fit it with some audio so that people around know that
people
a car
know it's coming.
Yeah.
I think that's why Tesla did the whole like customization, right?
All the supercars have
horn can be what? Yeah, right. You can customize the sound of your horn. So a lot of people do that whole move bitch, get out the way audio. Which is pretty funny.
Oh. No cursing. Family friendly podcast.
It's a family
t-shirt. Which wasn't allowed, but Yash is wearing it all over himself.
What's
Do I see this?
Little bit of sneak peek, Yash.
No, but did you all know this interesting? I mean, I think a lot of people know. I just didn't know, or I was unaware. but the first model of Tesla was the Model S, right? Then came the Model 3.
Yeah.
There is a sequence to the model names. Did you know?
Yeah. So then
S,
came the X and then came the Y. So it's pronounced
so
as
it up, and what does it say?
C.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what it says. Yeah.
He might be an ass, but he's pretty smart at these things.
That's such futuristic planning, na?
He foretold it.
Is the CEO? Everyone is meeting, guys. Today's agenda of the meeting is.
But on the EV point, I think one thing we overlook is that an internal combustion engine in every car is much less efficient than, let's say, a coal power plant that is making all that electricity at one center. And the changes that can be made over there much drastic rather than every car that has to be maybe retrofitted with use new filters that we had or something like that. So on a smaller level, maybe they are making an impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Sure. Yeah.
Plus, there's a point of consumer guilt going away. They feel much better and they're ready to pay a premium for that.
Yeah, 30% no less, which is a lot.
Yeah. I'd never pay for mock meat.
That company is still going down the drain. Like most of the mock meat stocks.
Yeah. No, I remember going to this one place. You remember this? There's this restaurant in Palladium called Typhoon Shelter. Yeah, I'd ordered like a mock duck there because I was with someone who was vegetarian. And dude, it was that soya chop, man.
Oh yeah, what a scam.
What do these vegetarians know? So we can.
We do not hate on vegetarians on this podcast either.
Yash is a vegetarian.
Last time was fat shaming. This time is vegetarian.
Eating disorder.
But that is the parody. Like, how do they know that it tastes exactly similar? They have never had real stuff.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't ever pay, right? Like eating both of them. Like,
I think
I'd
Yash
rather eat a
ordered
duck.
once. I ate some keema or something he had ordered. It was shit.
Yeah, it's some. What is that athlete guy who won a gold medal or something?
Oh, the javelin guy.
Yeah.
Neeraj what?
Neeraj Chopra.
Correct.
Is it? Yeah, Chopra. One point.
Okay, we digressed heavily. Yeah.
Okay. So, so government policy definitely favorable and paves like a long way for India in terms of penetration. But that's the whole bit, right? Like Tata Motors has a 85% market share, but it's like this. Like numbers can be very deceiving, right? When you say 35x growth, you're still selling about 42,000 vehicles a year, right?
Right.
So that's not really a large number compared to the total 38 lakh vehicles that India sells, cars. So it's the base that really matters. And I forgot my point. What was I talking about? Yeah, so Tata Motors 85% market share, right? It doesn't make any. It's not very impressive as well because the market itself is small, right? So these growth numbers, I mean, they look elevated because the base is small. Similarly, the market share number also looks elevated because the market itself is pretty nascent. So if they're able to maintain the market share when the market grows, etc., then you've got a case for being like extremely impressed and all of that, right? But nonetheless, I think they've got an early movers advantage because they were the first ones to really launch those high performing, scalable and readily available passenger vehicles that people also liked.
Unlike the Mahindra. Yeah, exactly.
Deva.
Oh, that was a horrible car.
I think it's still on.
Yeah, but that's also such a sad story because at one point, those EVs commanded like a 25% market share in the EVs being sold at the time. And then it went to completely zero because no one's really buying them anymore. Because who would when it compares to a Tata Nexon?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? I mean, this is the first sort of, sexy looking EV in India, and it's done wonders for Tata Motors as a share price, right? Right from
Right.
launch in October 2019 till now, Tata Motors has gone up like 2.5x. Of course, there are
Yeah.
other contributing factors
Factor.
as well.
Yeah.
There is the whole recovery in the passenger vehicle business and commercial vehicles doing well and blah blah. We'll come to that later. But EVs still contribute to about, if I have to look at the valuation of Tata Motors right now, 25%, 20% of the total
20%.
valuation would be made up by electric vehicles, which was practically zero in back in the day. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's really added a lot of the performance that the stock has been delivering. But on the EV front, you want to talk a little about Tata's strategy in terms of what launches they have done and what other competitors are at present in the market.
Competitor standpoint, apart from the 85% that Tata owns, there is BYD, which is a Chinese EV company that has actually very recently gone completely EV from their previous mix of combustion and EV. So as of March 2022, they've completely switched to an EV strategy. They have a fairly minimal stake in India, but on a global stance, last year they were the best performing EV car on a global scale. They even beat Tesla in terms of sales volume. So that's one player. Then we have Hyundai with their Kona or whatever they call it, which is also at a single digit market share and growing. And I think that's about it in terms of actual
MG.
competition against MG, which is, okay, I think that's at a very large premium. So it's a luxury EV in terms of an Indian context. But yes, again, another single digit market share percentage. And that's it. That's where the competition stands against Tata Motors as of now. And uh, clearly, they've killed it in the launches that they've done, which is first being the Tigor in 2019, I think. That's how you pronounce it. Then there's Nexon and Punch. And these three cars have ranged among the top 10 best-selling cars in 2022. And the EV variants, not their combustion engine variants. So that's a pretty brilliant move on there. And from the timing of launching to the design aspect to the range that it offers compared to, because everyone is pegging it against the Riva E20 with, so now the range is 10x. The number of charging stations from that point to now is 10x. It's just a no-brainer as to what the choice should have been, and that's clearly reflected in terms of people making the choice to buy a Tata Motors EV car.
Yeah, but that is also kind of seen in the whole launch of the Tiago EV.
Right.
On the first day, it scored like 20,000 bookings, and
Wow.
20,000 is a very large number for a car like that, because in all, Tata Motors has sold 50,000 cars, EVs.
Right.
And then scoring 20,000 on day one is massive.
Brilliant.
So that's going to be another big success for Tata Motors. So 4 models which will be doing extremely well for Tata Motors now. And in terms of the strategy to also, I think they've also got the foresight not only in terms of just launching EVs first, but also separating the company out and creating a subsidiary, understanding the fact that, hey, this business is going to consume money, it's going to consume capital, it's not going to be like the traditional business. Just hiving it off and letting it get the talent that it deserves, getting new age talent, getting in new technologies, just operating separately and getting in new investors as well. So all of those things, Tata Motors did have the vision to separate out, but while also maintaining enough distance from the parent and sister companies that there is technology transfer, there is benefits of branding, marketing, the sales network that Tata Motors has, right? All of these can be leveraged into the EV piece, so that it also sort of operates in a very hybrid way, wherein it's utilizing the parents and sisters means as well as operating independently. But the latest round for Tata Motors EV, you want to talk a little about the investment round, and because now it's hyped off separately, so they're utilizing that separate company in order to raise capital that can be invested into the EV business, as well as clear off some of the group level debt if they might want to.
Right. So the company is being called Tata Passenger Electric Mobility, which Yash had mentioned in our previous podcast as a teaser to what we'd be doing this week. And in their first round of funding, they managed to acquire, I think, around $1 billion from TPG Rise Climate Fund and ADQ, which gives them about 11 to 15% stake in the whole business, valuing it at 9.1 billion. Now, the round two, which is yet to come to fruition, and already seeing players from the Middle East in terms of Abu Dhabi and Saudi funds lining up, is another $1 billion, which will raise the valuation of the firm to 10. And let's take that in terms of like a global setting. If we take the price to sales metric, Tata Motors, the electric division, stands at a 1.8x in terms of FY24 sales projections. And all its other competitors, which is the BYD and NIO and Li Auto, which most of them are Chinese companies, they stand between the 1 and 2x multiple. So clearly, the business is being valued accurately, except for Tesla, of course. That's been pumped to another strata. But taking a fair valuation into consideration, this is being fairly valued and with room to grow in the next decade or so.
Yeah, so I think it would be getting a discount primarily because of the kind of small scale it operates at this point in time. But also a premium given the fact that it's an early mover, has majority market share, and in a market that is clearly promising compared to some of the other markets globally. But there is also a threat which may be getting embedded into this, right? And because the industry is at such a nascent stage, players like Maruti and Hyundai haven't really come in full swing yet. And once Maruti does, it is bound to play the whole pricing strategy. That's historically been its game, right? In every single segment that it enters, it is clearly a winner in terms of the way it is priced. And you can already see Maruti's actions aligning towards that strategy because they're willing to sit out at this point in time when the market is small. And what they intend to do is scale up at least on battery manufacturing. So
They're
once they
setting
have
up their
battery
own plant,
manufacturing,
right? Yeah.
yeah. So if they set up battery manufacturing in India, which is captive, they're reducing on so much of the total cost of production of an EV because at the end of it, a majority of the cost is going to be the battery. And that's what will give them a significant price advantage compared to competitors. So when they can come in full swing, like all guns firing. And that's when the threat will be always the one threatened the most is the player with the highest market share.
Exactly.
The one bound to lose is the one with the highest.
Yes.
But let's see. I think they're planning on releasing their. Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say that they're planning on starting production and a long time. I think they'll zip past very quickly, and soon we'll have a Maruti EV in our midst competing against the Nexon, and then we'll see how much of a discount they'll be selling that at.
No, I mean, we have the potential upside for Tata Motors at least for 2 years from now. So,
yeah, that's true.
2 साल तक investment wise, who cares after that? ना पैसा बनाओ निकलो. उसके बाद मारुति में डालेंगे उसमें क्या?
Wait till that podcast, guys.
Non-committal people. So did you all know, and this makes me feel really old, is so when I was tracking, I started tracking the auto sector, like when I just joined equities. And tabhi Tata Motors wasn't doing well at all. And at a point, Tata Motors' ka market share in passenger vehicles was all of 4%. So it had gone from 13% down to 4% because it was just rehashing the same models which weren't working. And that was that era when they would make Indigo, Indigo XL, Indigo this, Indigo that, Indigo Chota, Indigo Bada. So all those cars were coming. When Indigo XL, nobody wants to buy. So they were releasing tons of variants in Indigo. And they reached a 4% market share. And from there, now they've come back to 14% market share becoming the
Yeah,
third
I see.
largest, third largest passenger car seller on a monthly basis, just after Maruti and Hyundai. And when they were at a 4%, they were at number 9. Um, when the monthly numbers used to come out, we used to actually see the numbers and say, "Ki ye kaun kharid raha hai gaadi? Who are these people?" And now, now like just 20 cars, 30 cars, ऐसे बिकते थे. So we were like, "Who are these people? What are they getting encouraged by? Why are they buying these cars?"
Most of them were cabs, when there used to be that whole Meru cab service that used to go around in metropolitans. Most of them were these Indica variants.
Yeah. But yeah, now they've come to 14%, and that's a commendable job done as well, right? I think EVs are certainly driving a little of that, but it's also other than EVs that the strategy is working quite well.
Definitely.
I think their combustion engines, as of like the third quarter of FY23, they hit their largest ever sales.
Yeah,
like a
126
21% year-on-year.
units. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So that's pretty amazing. And they're launching a lot of new cars also. They have the Harrier, which is one of the competitors to the Hyundai Creta. Hyundai Creta being the largest selling SUV in India. So they're reaching that level of competition. And they've launched the new Curve Wala also, which is in the Auto Expo. It's a very good looking car.
Yeah, we see where you're going.
I used to be a fan. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good looking car.
It's the Beyonce of cars.
Right.
Lot of
Because it's
curves.
got curves.
Sorry, so
Yeah, let's
Hardik,
move
you
on
want
to
to add
the
something?
let's move on to the other businesses of Tata Motors. If we are done with the EV portion, I think we have talked enough.
We had moved on. Where are you? That's why.
Yeah.
Hardik bolega kuch.
I'm still fantasizing about Beyonce.
No. First, let's go with the
I have a question.
Yeah. Okay, Yash is gonna start as well.
Largest normal car seller in India.
Maruti.
Okay, how much market share does it have?
80%. Oh.
Sagar gets the point.
हवा में ना कुछ भी बोलते रहता है.
Flip the script, bro. Damn it. You are fired. No, you are fired. Okay, so yeah, Tata Motors, except like EV, it has the IC internal combustion engines, then the PV, the passenger vehicles, and JLR. So yeah, talking about each of the business, I see all the business are on individual level doing way better than they were like last year or the previous years. They were, as I think Sagar mentioned, that it has gone up from 5% to like 14% today, the market share of IC business. So yeah, I'll quickly mention all of the business and what's going on with them. So IC business, like Ayush mentioned, its retail sales have done really good, 21% YOY growth. So yeah, a lot going on there. Its market share has increased. It's launching new vehicles, and yeah, it's doing good.
Yeah.
Then moving on to the PV business. So the CV business, sorry, CV, the commercial vehicles business, the trucks and all. So their revenue as well was up like 22% YOY. CV business was like not doing so well in recent past years, but it has picked up a lot, especially strong demand in like the MN HCVs, like 50% up YOY, and the passenger carriers, which is like 110% up year on year. So yeah, they have also launched, I think, 40 new products in the CV business and like 150 new variants in FY23.
It's also a very segmentized business, right? I mean, you've got like light commercial vehicles, then medium,
Yeah.
heavy, and in heavy also there's like so many different capacities. Plus you've got passenger carriers and goods carriers and buses. Buses may be different sizes. There's just such a fragmented market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
In
have to
fact,
They're
since we're on
electrifying a
the
lot of
topic
that
of
as well.
yeah, sorry.
They're electrifying a lot of that as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So they have this whole
Electric
smart
buses,
mobility subsidiary that they've created for EV buses, which is taking the whole public transport system for a toss. And I think they've in 2 or 3 years they've 3x the number of buses that they've put out in terms of the EV ones in metropolitan cities like Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai. So if you look outside, there might just be a Tata EV bus out there now, and that's a pretty. I think that's the market that they'll be tackling after they've accomplished everything that they need to in the passenger vehicle segment, because that's where most of the emissions are also, with all the buses. Everything.
It's fascinating that BEST is so appropriately named for the EV space, no?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
because it's the best.
What do you do? People don't travel by bus.
Yeah,
What?
like the Bombay Electrical and Suburban Transportation
Yeah.
or something like that.
Oh,
Right? So,
yeah.
It's actually electric.
No,
yeah.
it's like वो
They
नाम
had
में
such foresight.
the नाम में E means electric best में.
Yeah,
Oh,
But I think that's because
I
they
thought we
supply
are making a
electricity,
new.
right?
I thought it was so known that. Acha, ठीक है. Hey, fun fact.
Oh. Cool. Then we come to JLR. So JLR also has been doing like very well. Their revenue is up 28% YOY.
They hadn't been doing so well so far, though. But
Yeah, the chip
shortages
shortage.
and everything.
Chip shortage all over the world there is chip shortage. So they were struggling since 2019. I think the wholesales have been continuously going down. I think they were down 36% almost, but they have been continuously increasing in FY23. So quarter on quarter continuous growth is there, and the chip supplies are gradually increasing. So that problem is taking care of itself. Then
yeah, but
there
they're
is
also signing a lot of these deals with chip suppliers where for all the high risk chips,
Okay.
they sign long-term contracts so that there is enough visibility and lesser disruption
Hedging
because
the
of
risk.
any upheaval in the market.
True.
And I think in the Jaguar Land Rover segment, they're also electrifying there as well, with new Jaguar SUVs and sedan cars being electrified. With I think the Pace segment is becoming from F Pace to E Pace. That's a pretty nice transition there too. So if like the luxury EV segment of India is being tackled, also the passenger EV segment is being tackled. Public transport is being tackled.
EVs everywhere. Damn it.
EV is everywhere.
So yeah, I think that's all. China is reopening with respect to JLR. So yeah, they have their I think in January only, the last 3 weeks of Jan, all their dealerships in China have been gradually opening. So demand is picking up there as well. So we are good on JLR front as well. So except TV, all the other businesses of Tata Motors are doing extremely well.
Except the others, including
Other
yeah.
Yeah, including EV. So that brings us to the valuation of Tata Motors. Yash, you want to take that up or take?
No, I think I'll let you take the lead. Extensive work.
Opens blog in the background.
All right. So for the valuation of Tata Motors, we just like ITC, we use the sum of the parts valuation. So valuing all the businesses separately on different multiples. So we use industry standard multiples and like discounted them or gave them a premium based on how the company works. So for the ICE business, we used 8x EV by EBITDA, discounting it to the industry average due to they have a Tata Motors has a lower market share and lower profitability overall. CV segment, it is on a premium because Tata Motors has a huge market share like compared to all its competitors. So there was a slight premium and the multiple came out to 14x EV EBITDA. JLR, it's 2x EV EBITDA because the international average was around like 2.5, 2.6, but they're facing a lot of problems, the chip shortage and the lockdown in China. So we discounted it to 2x. Based on that, the valuation comes out to around 550, and that gives us what 30% edge on the CPM current market price. So yeah, there is a lot of headroom to grow there.
So while it is this for now, the EV business obviously can keep adding a lot more or can become a larger component as we move forward. Right.
Definitely.
From zero, it's come to 20% of total valuation now. So it's been already on an incremental basis been a major driver of the stock price. But even from here, if you have to look at a place where there is potential for immense volume growth as well as scale and the sheer fact that the EV business gets a higher valuation because it's trending, it's got a long runway, it's got potential, it's got multiple years of tailwinds in place, right? So it's natural to get a higher multiple, or everybody wants to pay a higher price to get a piece of that business compared to the other businesses. Despite the fact that EVs are just about 1% or 1.5% of the total sales right now, at least for Tata Motors, and until the time new competition comes in, this can be one of the major drivers for the stock price from here.
Definitely, yeah. I'm thirsty, guys. What do I do? That sounds wrong.
You could just go, yes, I have a Pepsi. You know,
yes, I have a Pepsi. Let's go.
No one knows.
We have to script this out for Hardik.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
What is so special about that Pepsi, Hardik?
So, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what's so special about it. It is made by Varun Beverages, which is the sole licensor of Pepsi and its products in India. And it has been doing astronomically well. So we'll talk about why it's doing well and what's the potential upside in our next podcast. Keep tuning in.
That
Guys. Thank you so
great.
much. Yeah.
That sounds great.
Clearly, we can't do brand plugs.
That's it for this time, guys. Bye.